Welcome to week 4. Today we're going to talk about the very basics of JavaScript. So last week we just went over the basics of HTML. Now JavaScript is kind of where this class is going to focus for the rest of the semester. And so this week is just to help you get started with JavaScript for the first time. All right. So like I said last week, the JavaScript happens separate from the HTML, but they talk to each other. They interact. But the HTML is just how the information is displayed in the browser, and the JavaScript actually executes and does things within the web page. Okay. Looking at the chapters, I just wanted to cover real quick how to write a simple JavaScript program that requires the user to click a button, how to pop up a window and to send output through a pop-up window, and then also to get input from a text field and send that input out to a div tag, like I kind of mentioned last week. Looking at example number 1, we have the most simplest of HTML websites here, or programs here. I went ahead and I'm going to take this from example 1 and I'm going to copy it. I'm going to fire up Visual Studio Code. I'll create a new file and I'm going to paste that code inside here. I'm going to set it from plain text to HTML because that's what we're working with. And the first thing I'm going to do is save it to my desktop. I'll just give it the same name as this other one here. Okay. All right, so let's just take a look at, see if I can't. Yeah, there we go. Make it a little bit easier to see. So from last week, we see that we have our doc type, which tells us that we are an HTML5 web page. The HTML tag with the language defined, and the closing tag is at the very end, so all the HTML happens inside of here. We have our head tag with our meta and a character set in the title. We also have our body tag with a single button. And then inside our head tag, which I skipped over here a second ago, we have a script tag. Now all your JavaScript has to happen inside of a script tag. The script tag says, all right, this in between here is no longer HTML. We're just working with JavaScript, so treat it like JavaScript and not like HTML. Okay, so that's why all your JavaScript code has to happen inside of the script tag. We start with what they call a defining table, and a defining table happens inside these JavaScript comment tag or characters. These characters right here, the slash dot or asterisk, and the asterisk slash says ignore this section. But it's just a way to put notes in it for your own benefit. And in this class, what we do is we create inside the notes field, between these two notes areas, something called a defining table. And a defining table always has the input, which is what the user puts into your program, processing, which is what your program does, and output, anything that goes back out to the user through a div tag or through a pop-up window. Okay, you can tell this is a comment because Visual Studio Code makes it a different color, in this case green. All good text editors will change the color in some way in order to delineate where the comments are versus where the rest of the program is. Okay, another kind of comment tag. This is called a block comment that starts with the slash asterisk and ends with asterisk slash. Then they also have a line comment, which just is slash slash. So in a block comment, anything, no matter how many lines it takes between these two sets of characters, is a comment. This one just says comment only this one line. So the comment only lasts until the end of the line. That's why you have a slash slash on each line to show that each one of those is a comment, each one of those lines. Okay. Your JavaScript will happen inside of what we call a function. A function is a little section of code that is encapsulated and only happens when that function is called. In this case, it starts with a keyword called function, and it has the name of show message. So anytime show message is called, then the program comes in here and executes everything inside of the show message function. Okay, there's a couple of parentheses, and we'll towards the end of the semester we get into why these parentheses are here, but just know that these two parentheses, this open and close parentheses, always have to be in your function. And then you have what they call a curly brace. And the curly brace delineates a section of code. In this case, this is the open curly brace, and this is the closing curly brace. Everything inside the open and closed curly brace is part of that function. If you were to put something outside of this closed curly brace, it would not happen when this function is executed. So it only happens, things only happen that are inside the curly braces. So the curly braces define where the function starts and where the function ends. Okay? So looking at this function, we have some comments that kind of talk about what we're trying to do. The next line of code causes the computer to open a pop-up window that contains the words "water is delicious." Okay? So we have the alert keyword. And this alert keyword says, okay, create a pop-up window. Inside, we have some quotes and some words. Everything inside this parentheses is printed in the pop-up window that gets displayed. In this case, water is delicious. The quotes say this is a string. This is a combination of characters. That's what a string is. It's not a number. It's not so you can't do math with it. It's not a decimal like 2.38. It's just a combination of characters that we should treat as if they were just text, kind of like the text in a book. It's just text that is created and shown inside this alert window. And in programming, that is called a string, and it's and it's described, or it's shown by having quotation marks around it. Now, you can have a number in here, but it doesn't treat it as if it is a number 4, as if something that you can do math with. It is just treated as just part of the list of characters that are being displayed to the user inside this pop-up window. Okay? And finally, like I said, the only time this JavaScript code is executed is when somebody calls it, says, okay, do the show message function. And in this case, that happens down here in the button tag. The button says, okay, I'm a button. I'm of type button. On the button, I'm going to have the word message. And anytime this button is clicked, we have this special event called onClick. It's a property of the button, like we talked about yesterday, or last week. Every time somebody clicks it, execute the function called show message. Don't forget the parentheses. You have to have the parentheses as part of this function call. And so now what this means is anytime that somebody comes onto your web page and clicks on this button, it says, okay, I want you to do whatever's inside the show message function. So it comes up here and says, okay, here's the function called show message. I'm going to do everything inside the open and close curly brace right here. In this case, it just pops up a window that says water is delicious. So let's go ahead and save it. I think I already saved it before. I'll save it again. And then we are going to open it up inside our browser. I'll double click on it. So it shows just a button that says message. which is what we expect when you looked at the code. The only thing in the body was a single button here. So that's good. That's what we're expecting. When you click on the button, we're expecting it to go to that function called show message and do an alert, which is a pop-up window with a message saying water is delicious. When you click on it, this page says water is delicious, then an OK button. So it did its pop-up window. It showed the message. If you were to go in here and say, but not as delicious as juice. Now, when that pop-up comes up, the message will be everything inside of this string. Okay, I'll go ahead and hit Control S for save. Go into my browser, refresh it. That means go get the newest changes and put it inside the browser. Now, when you hit the message, it says water is delicious, but not as delicious as juice. Okay. Something else we need to learn this week is what a variable is. Okay, so we're going to go in here. Now, a variable says I'm going to store a piece of information inside the computer's memory. You always start a variable with the keyword var. It stands for variable, and you give this piece of information a name, some kind of a label. So I'm going to call this message, or I'm just going to call it MSG. Why not? It's an abbreviation for message. And I'm going to say, okay, make a variable. We'll call it message, and we'll say, water is so delicious. Okay? So I took this string, this set of characters, and I put it in a piece of the computer's memory, and I gave it a name, that variable name called message. Okay? Now we can use the variable name in place of anywhere we want the string to be. Okay? So in this case, alert MSG. So it says, basically I'm going to make a pop-up window and put inside the pop-up window the message whatever is put inside this variable called message, MSG. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and delete this top one. So now what would you expect? We create a variable, we set it equal to the message, water is so delicious, and then we do the alert like we did before, but instead of actually putting the whole string in there, we just put the variable name in there. And that tells the computer, take whatever is stored inside this variable called message and use that inside your alert instead of an explicit string. I'm going to hit Control S for save. Come up here, refresh, hit the message button. It says water is so delicious. So whatever is inside that variable gets put into the alert message. Okay. Now, how do you get information from the user? This week, we'll use a pop-up, but I'll have a caveat on that in a minute. So we're going to create a message, a variable called message. Again, we're going to put nothing in it, just a quote with nothing in between it. That means the message says there's nothing in there. Now we're going to say prompt, another special word, keyword, and we do, I think it starts with type in a message like that. Okay, I'm going to go review the book to make sure I'm doing this correctly. Yes, that is correct. Okay. Change of plan. What we want to do is we create a variable called message, and we're going to set it equal to this right here, this prompt. I hit cut, and then paste. Okay. I don't use these prompts alerts very often, so I sometimes have to review. Okay, so this says create a message called MSG, and we're going to set it equal to whatever the user places inside this pop-up prompt. Okay, this string right here just says, this is what I display to the user as part of my prompt. We're going to save whatever they type into message, and then we're going to do another pop-up that repeats the message back to the user. Okay, Control S, refresh. Oh, I have to hit OK here. Okay, and we refresh, get the newest code, hit the button, it says type in a message. I like to drink water. You hit OK, and so now after this, a pop-up window will come and display back to us whatever we type in here. Hit OK. I like to drink water. We're going to do it again. Hello, water drinkers of the world. And now when we hit OK, what's going to happen? A pop-up will happen with that same message back to us. Hello, water drinkers of the world. Okay. Now, say we want to create a custom string according to, and adding in whatever it is that the user puts in here into this prompt. So let's say, instead of just repeating it back to us, that's the exact same thing that was typed in, let's let the user know that we're typing it back in. Okay, so we can do that with something called string concatenation. That means we're building a new string out of several different pieces of several different strings. We're going to put them all together, concatenate them. That's what the word concatenate means. It means putting strings together. Okay, so I'm going to create another one called out message. I would say equal to, let's say, the message you typed, colon, space, and then you concatenate using the plus sign. Now it doesn't add, when you're using strings, it doesn't add the numbers, it doesn't add together like numbers where 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. It just takes the first string and chunks it together with the second string into a new string that has both of them in it. So I'm going to take my new string here, out message says the message you typed, colon, space, you got to remember your spaces, because all it does is it just crams the two strings together. And then I'm going to put MSG. So whatever they typed in this prompt and goes into this message variable, I'm going to cram together with this other string called the message you typed, colon, concatenate MSG. Oops, I moved it over. Okay, and then in my alert, instead of outputting the MSG, I'm going to output out message. And save, refresh, then hit button, says type in a message. Love water so much. Why not? Hit OK. And now it's going to take this string that I just put in and going to cram it onto the end of the other string that I had in my code, saying, what did I just write? The message you typed, colon, and it'll put them all together, and then it'll output the whole big string to us. The message you typed, colon, space, love water so much. Just like that. All right. So that's how prompt and alert work. That's how variables work and strings and concatenation. The last thing you need to understand is, okay, this week we're using something called prompt, we're using something called alert. That's actually not how we normally do it in this class. I don't know how many web pages you guys go to, but almost never do they use pop-ups that ask for information or give you information back. That's more like what spammers do and ads at unreputable sites do. Okay. What they normally do is you usually have a space on the web page to type your message. So I'm going to do that here. Let's say message, and we use the input tag to provide a text area for the user to put in their message. D is equal to the message. Okay. So now with this, we create this input tag, which provides us a space to type our message and a little instruction here. Actually, we can do the exact same instruction we use up here just to be consistent right here. So type in a message like that. Okay, let's just hit save so you can see what it does. The JavaScript won't work in this case because we haven't done all the pieces that we need, but just so you can see what this input tag. So if I go here and hit refresh, now I have something that says type in a message in a space and it has a button to execute the function. Okay. The first thing you need to do is get the message that was typed into this input tag. Now you notice I put an ID and kind of give it a little label, a name. This is super important because now what I need to do is use a keyword called get element by I forgot something. Document dot get element by ID, and then a string called the message dot value. Okay, tons of words here, but here's what it is. We have an ID inside this tag or element called input right here. So we have an input tag that's also known as an element. It's got an identification called the message. And we're saying, okay, in this HTML document, I want you to get the element, and I want you to get it by giving you the ID right here. And then here's the ID that I give it. All right, this has to exactly match this right here, or else it won't be able to find the input tag that you put in there. Okay. So we say, okay, search the whole HTML document and find the one that has ID called the message. Then get whatever the value inside that tag is, which in this case is the words that the user typed into the message box. Now do all of that and place it into a new variable called MSG. So instead of doing the prompt, we say go out and grab the words that were typed inside the input tag and put it inside the variable called MSG, and then send out the alert. We'll concatenate it like we did before, just like everything else is exactly the same. Okay, we'll just take this step by step. So now we'll hit save, and we'll refresh it. It says water is the best, and hit the button, and now it says the message you typed is water is the best. So exactly what we did as before, except instead of using a prompt, which is a pop-up, we create an input tag and grabbed whatever the user typed inside of here. Okay, so that's half of what we're trying to do. So we got rid of the prompt pop-up, but now we want to get rid of this alert pop-up. When you do that, oops. Sorry, my mouse is just acting a little bit funny today. I'm not sure why. Okay, we do that by creating another tag called a div tag. It's just a division. It's just an area of your HTML. You give it an ID too. We're going to call it the output div, like that. Okay. So just like we can take things out of the HTML, what the user writes in this input tag, we can also put things into an input tag or HTML tag. In this case, we'll use a div tag. Again, we give it an ID, just like we gave the input tag an ID. And instead of doing alert, what we need to do is, again, document. This is the HTML document, get element by ID, and then the ID that we were searching for, in this case, output div. These need to exactly match, capitals and lowercase, everything exactly the same. Then instead of value, this one has an inner HTML. Okay, they pretty much work the same, just some tags have a value, some tags have an inner HTML. It's a little bit inconsistent, but that's just the way it is. Div tags have inner HTMLs that you put in. So you set that equal to the out message. Okay, so whatever you have inside this variable, we're going to put inside the HTML document. We're going to grab the element that has the same ID as this. In this case, it's a div. Inside its inner HTML, we're going to put whatever is saved inside this variable called out message. Okay, go ahead and save that. Right here, refresh. Water, water, water. Oops, don't know how to spell water. Okay. Make this a little bit bigger so we can see. Should have done that earlier. Now when you hit the message, it'll go and create that message that's inside this variable called the message you typed, colon, and then whatever you typed, which is water, 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 and it's going to put it inside this div tag that we've defined inside our HTML. So we hit message, There it is. The message you typed is water, water, water. So two ways to get information from the user and to display it back. This week, you're going to take um, some code that's already an example inside the chapter and just make some changes to it. And this is just so that you can kind of get your feet wet without having to jump in and figure out all the different things that the different JavaScript syntax and things like that. And you'll display it out as an alert pop-up window. After this week, from here on out, forevermore, in this class, we're not going to use alerts and we're not going to use prompts ever again. What we're going to do is we're going to use input tags, just like we do here, and we're going to use div tags for our answer. Okay, so while it's quick and easy and useful to know how to be able to use alerts and prompts, it's not really the way websites usually use it. Grab information from the user and display it. And so we're going to start doing that from starting next week from here on out, just as a forewarning. All right, hopefully this video helped get you through this week and understand the concepts and prepare for your next week.